thank you so much for being here tonight. There must be something better on television. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love to talk about my ancestors and your ancestors. Here's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. The Quebec Catholic Parish Registers are some of the best records, in my opinion, that are had in family history work. The baptism and birth records contain all the information that one needs. Then they have the marriage records and the burial records. The women keep their maiden names throughout all of the records from birth until death. So that makes researching a little bit easier. But the bad news is, and what is the bad news? It's in French. It's about 98% French. These are the vital records. If you were to go to the town hall or the city hall in Quebec and want to see the vital record, the birth record for 1850, it's the Parish Registers. So the good news is, early in the 1800s, what they did is the civil authorities went to the church and said, starting this year, we want you to make a duplicate copy of all the registers that you write. And they did. So some poor person had to duplicate all of the records. But as you're going to see tonight, that was such a blessing, because some information that's missing on one record is found on another record. So let's look at page number. There you go. What we're going to talk about tonight. Now, these aren't the only sources, okay? But this is what I primarily do my research on. Now, again, there are others, and we could spend hours. I like to go to Family Search and look for the Quebec Catholic Parish Registers. It says 1621 to 1979. The reality is it goes to 1900. It goes to 1900. There may be a few confirmations and et cetera that are in there that go to 1979, but they primarily go to 1900. Ancestry.com, these are the duplicate ones. These are the copies of this. They go to, it says 1960, but they really go to about 1940, 1941. The advantage of Ancestry.com is that they're indexed and they're searchable. These are not. These you have to, the parish registers, you have to browse. You have to know where you're looking, and you have to look page by page. So what I do is I find it here, and then I go over here. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Again, 2 sets of records were kept, one for the church and one for civil authorities. I'd like to go to the beginning, but we did the beginning last year. So we're going to touch on it for the next 15 or 20 minutes, and we're going to go over some of the key words that you're going to be looking for in the parish registers. Gil, can we go to page 10?
Yes.
It's coming. We're going to start. The first records that the church kept were the baptism records. This was very important. By the way, let me back up just a little bit. Thank God for the Catholic Church and the wonderful records that they kept. The baptism records were just that. They recorded the baptisms of all of the children. Starting in about the early 1800s, they started including the birth. Before then, and it varied by parish. Before then, it was just the baptism date. On this date, this child was baptized. Why? How many Roman Catholics here? Okay. Why in this research, why is the baptism date so important in relationship to the birth, even if you don't have the birth?
100 years ago, children were baptized much earlier than they are now.
Yes, they were baptized as infants. And how soon after their birth were they baptized? As soon as possible. And it's been my experience that I generally find the birth on the same day, the baptism on the same day as the birth, or 1 or 2 days later. That's probably 95% of the time. Okay? So, if you find one of your ancestors and it's just the baptism date, you can honestly say that this person was born about that day. And you'd be probably within 1 or 2 days. Okay? So, in the baptism records, these are some of the key words that you're going to find. Baptisé. They were baptized. This is one word. These are 2 words that you have to look for. Né. The bad news is that in the records they did not, up until maybe the 1880s, 1890s, in the baptism records, they did not identify the gender directly. They identified the gender by this word, né, born. If it was a male, it was spelt like this. If it was a female, it was spelt like that. Now, 9 times out of 10, you can tell by looking at the name, right? You can tell. Catherine, you know. But remember, in the Catholic Church, they honored the mother and stepfather of Jesus. And most of their names for the women are Marie, to begin with, and for the men, Joseph. And it's not uncommon for a man or a boy to have the name Marie, and for a woman, a girl, to have the name Joseph, probably with an E at the end of Joseph. And we're gonna talk about that. You're gonna see some examples. So you'll see this word, ondoyer. Baptism was really important. If a child was born and they saw this child is not going to live, they would give him or her an emergency baptism. And that's what this word means. Again, fils or garçon, starting in around the 1870s, 1880s, they started identifying the gender. Fils, fille, jumeaux. If they were twins, you would see jumeaux, jumelle for females. When they identified the birth, they didn't say it was born on this day. They would say the child was born today, the child was born the day before, or the child was born the day before yesterday, or the child was born since 3 days ago. That's the way they would identify it. 3 days from what? From the baptism. Okay? So if they say the child was born aujourd'hui, ce jour, le même jour, meaning a child was born today, meaning the day of the baptism. Was born hier, le jour précédent, la veille, was born yesterday, etc. Depuis, since, and they'll say that sometimes. Child was born depuis 3 jours, was born since 3 days ago, since 3 days of the baptism. Remember, It's a baptism record. And they list also the godfather and the godmother. Why is that important? Because I found that, generally speaking, when the first child born to that couple, there's a relative that's there as a godparent. And it's generally one of the grandparents. Not always, but generally. Just like us, right? Any questions on this? Again, we're going to look at some examples. But these are some of the key words. And again, as far as the births are concerned, it's indirectly told. Was born today, born yesterday, born the day before yesterday, based on the baptism date. The next one is the marriage. In the marriage was told the date, of course, who's being married, the woman and the women with their maiden names, who the parents are, unless it's a second marriage. If it's a second marriage, it would be the former spouse. Now, this is different times. There were no divorces. When you see a second marriage, it's because one's a widow or a widower. You don't see, I've never seen a divorce. There may have been an annulment, but never a divorce. Okay. They will talk in the record, they will say whether this person is of legal age. If you're doing research, that's important. What was the legal age? 21 for men and for women. And so they'll say in the record he was either a fils or a garçon majeur. He was of age. He was at least 21. Or he was a garçon mineur. He was a minor. Is it absolutely perfect every time? No. But it gets you in the ballpark. If you look and you see your ancestor is a minor when they got married, you know you can subtract 20 years, 18 years, 17 years. That's about when they were born. Okay? The same thing with the girls. Fille majeure, fille mineure. Let me skip this for now. They'll say if it was the époux is a groom, la veuf or le veuf is a widower. V-E-U-F, widower. Épouse is a bride, veuve is a widow, etc. And then they list all the attendees, le père, la mère, le grand-père, la grand-mère, etc. These are some of the key words you're going to see. And then number 15, we're going to go to the burials, some of the key words in the burials. Now, in the parish records, it's a burial record. It's not a death record. Because the ordinance of the church was the burial. So, the word is inhumé. They were interred. You'll see sometimes a child with no given name. It'll just say anonyme, anonymous. They won't give them a name. They'll have the surname. They'll have the parents, but there won't be a given name. Okay? Âgé, the age, male, female with an extra E. Okay? Veuf, the widower. Veuve is a widow. And it's just like in the marriage. Époux, husband. Épouse, wife. Cemetery, parish. Décédé, one E for male, two E's for female. And then they'll tell you, when was the child born? When did this person die? they generally don't bury them on the same day. I have seen it, but it's generally yesterday, hier, le jour précédent, la veille, or avant-hier, avant-veille, surveille, the day before yesterday. So when you see that, it's based on when they were buried. They died yesterday or the day before yesterday. That's the way it's listed. Or depuis, since, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Sometimes they'll die in the United States and be buried in Quebec. Usually it takes a couple days to get the body there. So, it's clear as mud, isn't it? There's a lot to it. It's a different language. It's a different culture. C'est le français. So now we're going to go over number 21, I think. Okay. No.
There's 21.
Yeah, there's 21. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish that the records were typed in 14-point type and clear. But we're going to go over how some of these records look. Remember, they were written. There was no typing. There was no printing. They had a lot to do, especially when you go into some of the big parishes in Quebec City and in Montreal, where they had 15 churches. I mean, some of these churches, they buried 10, 15 people a day. They would marry 10, 15 marriages a day. And baptisms, 30, 40 baptisms a day. I mean, so they, and they're writing 2 sets of records. So, this is an ancestry. Back during that time,
1830, 1840.
they needed to make sure that at least the godparents were Catholic. Because if the parents died, who was going to take care of the baby? The godparents, in theory. And they were going to ensure that that child was raised Catholic. That's why they were there. A lot of times what you'll see, not a lot of times, sometimes what you'll see is they'll be born and not be baptized for 3 months because missionaries come around and the churches are in the woods somewhere. Of course, the priests they were primarily the educated ones. They could write French and English. Sometimes they would write the record in English. So this is what you see in Ancestry. This is one of my ancestors. Is it this or this first name over here? You can't tell. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to, this is in Family Search. Same record. Hélène, or they would pronounce it Hélène. The H is silent in French. The H is like a vowel. Okay? So can you see why I go from, try to find it in Ancestry because it's indexed and searchable. But if I want to copy this and keep the record with the person, I go to Family Search. 8 times out of 10, they did a much better job in photographing. You know? Whoa! This is Ancestry. Now, first of all, if you can't read French, forget it. If you can read French, you've really got to struggle, okay? And this is an important record because you have a Jean-Baptiste Paquet, they would pronounce it Paquet, and a Gabrielle Paquet, brothers marrying, is it Gosselin? Oh, I can't even read it. But these are sisters. So brothers marrying sisters. Let's go to the next slide, what it looks like in Family Search. A lot better, huh? Now you can read it. Gontier, G-O-N-T-I-E-R, Gontier. So I find it in Ancestry. I go to Family Search and locate it. And what a difference. The We have a signature here too. Next one, Gil?
When you do that, Richard,
Yes.
what are you looking at? A date or a particular parish?
You're looking for the parish. So when you're when you find it in Ancestry, it'll tell you the parish, the date,
Okay.
and then you go to Ancestry, find that parish. Go to Family Search, find that parish,
Okay.
find the year, find the date. You have to browse it. Same thing. This is Ancestry, Family Search. It's night and day. They're not always that bad. For this purpose, I did it. I wanted to show you the worst. Okay, Gail. Now, it is critical that you validate everything that you're looking for. You don't guess. This is Family Search. And this one here is a marriage. And the man is Richard Grenier, as we would say, Richard Grenier, right? He's marrying that Hélène Audet de la Pointe. Now, in the French culture, it was common that they would have one name, but called by another name, because there were so many of the same people in a small community that they had to be separated by their names. So she was Hélène Audet, but she was called Lapointe. But we're not going to get into that right now. So in this record, when I found this marriage record, it said that Richard Grenier, he's a farmer. It says, whoa, Louise, what is this word? Spell it for me. L-E, now here is the double S. The double S. That's the way they used to do it in the 1800s. It looks like an F, except the loop is the opposite than a small s. So absolutely, if you're not familiar with it, you're going to say Lepard, because that's what it looks like. But it isn't. You see the way it goes down like this? It's Lessard, or Lessard, as they would say. Okay? But the problem here is they gave the mother's name. Where's the father? So I come across this record and I'm thinking, oh, who's the father? That's important. And when you're doing family history research, who are the parents? So this is in Family Search. So then I went to Ancestry. I went to the Druin collection. Not very pretty, but it says now that Richard Grenier, cultivateur, meaning he's a farmer, living in this parish. This is what was missing in the Family Search. He was a majeur, he was of age, and his father was Régis Grenier. And here's his mother, Louise Lessard. It was missing. It was missing in the Quebec Catholic Parish Register. The father was missing. Why was it missing? Who knows? This poor person probably has, I don't know how many he has to copy. They went to the baptisms. They didn't bring the registers to the baptism. They probably brought notepads. So, if you don't find it in one record, if you don't find it in the parish record, you go to the Druin collection in Ancestry. Okay, and we're going to do some more examples of that. So let's back up just one more. Let's just back it up, just to go over it again. Richard Grenier, cultivateur, farmer, and Louise Lessard. They forgot the father. So I'm thinking, maybe it's in the other record. Maybe it's in the copy. Go ahead, yell. And here it is. It even says he's a majeur, which is important. Now we know he's at least 21, and his father is Regis, R-E-G-I-S. E with the accent aigu. Okay. When you find these records, you've got to look at them closely. This one is in the Quebec Catholic Parish Registers. It's the baptism. Usually it's a B. You see, the baptisms usually start with a B. They have a number 70. They're generally sequential in terms of the next baptism that you find will be 71. Okay? But not 100%, but generally. But in this case here, you've got to look at it closely. This boy, Louis, F-O-R-G-U-E. It means seal in English, fork. Okay? It's his baptism record. But look at the next record. The next record is a burial record. You see the S? S is for sépulture, sépulture. It means it's a burial record. Following this record, I see the same name. Enfant, infant. It's a twin. It's his twin. So this little boy was born, and the next little boy, let's see, what happened to him? They buried in the cemetery of this parish the body of an infant. Is this infant a boy or a girl? It's a boy. We assume it's a boy. We assume that the priest did not make a mistake and forget to add the extra E. That's all we know. That's all we can go by. There's one E, né, so we assume it's a boy. It was, let's see, né of the legitimate marriage of Pierre Fort, right up here, and Marguerite Jobin, J-O-B-I-N. So now we know, same parents, a twin that died. We don't know when he died. It just said that he was buried on this day and he was born of these people. It's his brother. So if you find this record, you always look. You look at the entry after and the entry before. They keep them in a journal form. Okay? I think what we're going to do is we're going to skip this one, Gil. This one it's going to be tough to read. Okay. So, mistakes and entries. Yes. It's not uncommon to see discrepancies in duplicate entries. We've already seen some. They had a duplicate name because there were so many of that name in a local community that in order to identify one from the other, they were given another surname. So they might have been born, like I have an ancestor, he was born Cote. When he was married, it was Cote de Fréchette, called Fréchette. When he died, Fréchette. Started as Cote, died as Fréchette. It was part of the culture that because of the concentration of people that had the same name, they were given another surname to separate one person from another person. So when you're researching, you've got to research for both names. That's why they call it search, because you got to dig. And that's what happens. They go from one name to the next. So that's why parents are important.
Yeah.
That's why parents are important. Okay, so we're going to find some examples of mistakes. Okay, here's a little girl. Her name was Apolline Bouchard. It says she was baptized on the 13th of June, 1821, and she was baptized Apolline née, see the two E's, so it's a girl. She was born of the legitimate marriage of Pierre Bouchard and Marguerite Denis. She was born, but when was she born? We know she was born, but when was she born in relationship to the baptism? So I go to the Druin collection. I may have found it in the Druin collection first and then gone to the Quebec Parish Registers to copy it. But in the Druin collection, here we have, not as pretty, here we have Apolline Bouchard. She was le 13 de juin. This is the same person, but here in this record it says she was née hier. She was born yesterday. Okay, so let's back up, Gil. Here, Apolline Bouchard, she was née when? When was she born? We know she was born, we assume she was born close to this date, but when? Next one, she was born, as I go to the Druin collection, she was née hier. She was born yesterday. So now, that's important. Now you know she was born on the 12th of June. And you're gonna find this from time to time in these records. Next slide. Woo! Yeah, I could read it, but we're not gonna try. I'm researching, and this is the person that I'm looking to find, and I found her. And her name is M-A-R-G period. What's the rest of it? Marguerite. I found Marguerite Grenier. I was so happy to find it. So I'm reading it. I'm trying to make it out. I said, yeah, heck, I'm going to go to the Parish Register because I know they have made a better copy. Now, what I want you to look at before we go there, look at the entries before. We have a Lavigne, and we have a marriage record here of Rivard, Joseph Rivard and Geneviève Rivard. Okay, these are the entries before and after Marguerite Grenier. So I went to Ancestry. I went to Family Search. It's not there. Beautiful writing. Pierre Lavigne and, the same people. Somehow, it didn't write it. So that's why, see why these two copies are so important? Because if it's missing in one, you might find it in the other. Critical. So I was, as bad as that copy was, at least I had it. The only reason that I found it is that it was indexed, fortunately. It was indexed. Now, first of all, we're very grateful for those people who indexed in Ancestry. That's the good news. The bad news is whoever the contractors were, they were not familiar with the culture. And they read the names as best as they could, and You've got to think outside the box sometimes when you're trying to research your family. For example, I have an ancestor that's Lauzon, Lauzon. Well, the way the priest writes it, it's hard to tell sometimes. The contractors many times would index it Langan, Langan. Well, I finally figured it out, and I started looking for Langan, and I would find Lauzon, you know. So we're grateful for what's available. So anyways, 2 records, otherwise it would have been lost. Gil? This one here, very simple. In Druin, the name is, let's see, the baptism. The mother's name is Geneviève Léonard. And in the next one, in Family Search, the Parish Registers, it was Geneviève Simard. Well, which is the right one?
Family Search?
No, it was Druin. And the reason that I know that is the preceding record, the preceding entry had a Simard in it. You know, he's writing away. And doing further research, I knew that Leonard was the actual surname that was correct. Okay, now, you know, when you're doing family history research, you come across surprises. Surprises you never would think of. In the Catholic Church, as in many churches back then, if you were born, it's not like today, you had to be born legitimately. It was very important that your parents were married. Because if they weren't married, the child's name would go illegitimate in the record, illégitime, and the parents were not listed. So, I came across this record, and we're not going to go over all of it, just enough to say that this is a marriage record of a Joseph Verino and an Angélique Cartier. That's their marriage record on le 4 juillet 1800. And to my amazement, the next entry, 2 entries after, I see an Angélique Verino over here. And I'm reading it. It's on the 19th of July, 1800. And I'm looking at the parents, and I see the parents as Joseph Verino and Angélique Cartier, right here. They were married on the 4th of July. They had their baby on the 19th of July. And, very important, the record says it was a legitimate marriage that this baby was born in. She was 9 months pregnant. I don't know what kind of wedding dress that they wore. I don't know if I didn't check to see if it was the same priest that signed. But they were very kind, and the baby was born in the community, in the Catholic Church, to legitimate married parents, even though it was only 15 days later. But you would never think of I never would think I would find that. You know, I mean, you generally don't. It's generally 9, 10, 11 months later.
If they didn't do that, Richard, they'd have a lot of illegitimate children.
Yeah. You'll see, you go into the records in Notre Dame, in Montreal, in Montreal, you'll see 10, 15, 20, 30 illegitimate children in a year. And if they weren't baptized, they were buried in a different part of the cemetery. And I don't know if we're going to get to that record later on. Now, in the parish registers, not the Druin collection, not Ancestry, but in the parish registers, every once in a while, in the margin, some priest, someone, in this case here, this is 1847. At some point, can you see here 1909? Somebody said, oh, I found a record of this Julien Lauzon, Lauzon. Could put it all on the same line. And he wrote, and I assume it's a he, wrote something in the margin. And you'll find that from time to time. And 99 times out of 100, it's a marriage. And it gives you a hint. And you can go and then find the marriage record. But this one here, it said that, you've got to be familiar. You got to be familiar with the culture, the kind of names that they use. Otherwise, this is an abbreviation. François Xavier, FRS period X V period. So what this person wrote down, he said, in the church of François Xavier in Winooski, Vermont, EUA, États-Unis, United States of America. This girl married on the 2nd of December 1909 to a Jean Thomas, who was born in 1847 in the town of Toussaint in Switzerland. And it says, and then he put down as an afterthought, actually, it's in Essex, Vermont. In other words, actually, over here, Winooski, it's really in Essex, Vermont. So I Googled it, and I found out they're like 4 miles apart. And so you'll find that in the records. They'll. So I went, and I went to Winooski, Vermont. I went to the Vermont records and found this. And this was her second marriage. And it told who her first husband was. So, you find one thing, it opens up something else. So when you're looking into the parish registers, kind of look in the, sometimes you'll see something in the margin, look at it. Okay, Gil? Okay. Names change. It's one of the most difficult things, one of the things that drives me crazy. We have nicknames, don't we? And you find a marriage. I mean, you find a baptism. You find the birth. You find the name, and then you find the census record. And you look and you say, that's not the name. It was he was named Jean Baptiste, and over here he's called Guillaume. They change their names. They not often, but they do it. So over here is a little girl. She was born Marie Cédully Cote. Just as a sidebar, sometimes in the French they put a little circonflexe, like a little tent over the O. What that means is that replaces, there used to be another letter here. Used to be an S. Cote used to be spelled C-O-S-T-E. But they got rid of the S and put the circonflexe. That's a sidebar. Okay? So this little girl called Marie Cédully Cote, family search, was born to Louis Cote and Vitaline Gosselin. Now over here, the next month, this little girl died. She was born Cédully. The burial record is Célina. Well, how do I know it's the same one? Because it says that she is âgée de mois. She's 1 month old. So I know it's the same girl because it's the same parents, Louis Cote and Vitaline Gosselin. But it says she's a month old, âgée de mois. When did she die? It doesn't say. But I went to the Druin record. Well, the Druin record has a different name. They have Sylanese. And this is the same one, the 20th of May, the same parents, Louis Cote and Vitaline Gosselin. But in this record, in the Druin record, they put down that she was décédée la veille. She died the day before. She died the day before. And they also put down in this record that the mother, Vitaline Gosselin, who gave birth about a month before, is deceased. I would have missed it. The Druin is the transcription of the Family Search Quebec Catholic Parish Register.
Okay.
But we don't know in what order they did it.
Okay. Okay.
See, that's the thing. We don't know in what order they did it.
Okay.
So we're gonna back up again. Let's go back to Gil. Yeah. Yeah. So here's her birth. Marie Cédulie, Cedulie. She was baptized on the 9th of April, and she was née ce jour, born this day. She was born on the 9th of April. Her parents are Louis Cote and Vitaline Gosselin on the 9th of April. Do some more research. I find that on the 20th of May, this little girl, Marie Céline, well, wait a minute, I thought it was Cédulie. It's the same register, but maybe it's a different priest. If I should back up one more time, Gil. Yeah, it's a different priest, see? Go ahead. So he wrote down Céline. He said that she was 1 month old, but he didn't say when she died. I go to the Druin collection, and I found out, even though the name has changed a little bit, it's Sylanese, still the 20th of May, that she died, décédée is died, la veille, the day before. And that Vitaline Gosselin, her mother, is a défunte. She's deceased. Is that important? Now you know. So where are you going to look? Where are you going to look for this mother? Now, where are you going to look for her burial record?
In the church record.
In the church record between 9th of April and the 20th of May. And you have probably a very high probabilities of finding it. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. Okay, Gil? Okay, this is going to be fun. You're going to have to tell me whether these are boys or girls. We don't have to read the whole record. The name, Camille Hilarion Gosselin. See Gosselin? See the double S? G-O, big S, small s, E-L-I-N. What would you think? Boy or girl? Very good. Very good. But because it doesn't say it's a boy, you only have this to go by. In our culture, I'd say 9 out of 10 people would say that's a girl. That's a girl's name. But Modeste Cote. Girl or boy? Baptisé. Baptisé. Two E's. Né. La veille. Born the day before. How many say boy? How many say girl? Everybody says girl. Next. It's a boy. Because I found the marriage record. So nothing is bulletproof, okay? You've got to validate all this stuff as best as possible. So let's back up again. I would tend to agree. You know, when I first saw this, I said, "Oh, this is a double E, and is a double E over here, I think, or did he scratch it out?" So I did some more digging. Oh, for you French speakers, what is this name?
Jean-Baptiste.
Yes, Jean-Baptiste. They kind of, what's the word? They abbreviated it. It's actually BTE period. Don't abbreviate. So yeah, I thought it was a girl. I think I put it down as a girl to begin with, until I found the marriage record, and I said, oh. So we have a couple more. Go ahead. This one's a little tougher. Marie, Joseph, Pepe de la Chance. Pepin de la Chance is the surname. Marie Joseph, boy or girl? Let's take a look. Bon, baptisé Marie Joseph. Boy, that's a tough S-E-P-H, isn't it? Né hier. Would you put this person down as a boy or a girl? Boy. Yes. Put it down as a boy. In our culture, forget it. Right? It'd be a girl, but it's not uncommon for a boy to be named Marie. Next one. Marie Joseph Lauzon baptism. OK, avons baptisé Marie Joseph, né hier. Boy or girl? Boy. Yeah, it's a boy. Now, many times, if it was a girl, of course, it would have a double E here, or it should. It should. And they would put an E at the end of Joseph. Or sometimes they would put G-O-S-P-H-T-E, Joseph. And we had the father sign. Okay, you're good. Boy or girl hints. Examine the verbs, whether male or female. Né versus né. Baptisé versus baptisé. Inhumé versus inhumé. Âgé versus âgé. And then you look at the different entries. See how that priest, make sure that he was consistent. Examine how the officiator applied male or female verbs in the other entries. Of course, ideally, find a marriage record, but that's not always easy. Go ahead, Gil. Okay. It is not uncommon for a child to have died shortly after birth that they don't give them a given name. You'll see the term anonyme. English translation? Anonymous. Okay? So this is an enfant, a child, anonyme de his father. Ambroise. Yikes. Bisson. No? No.
Doesn't look the same.
Ambroise Leclerc. L-E-C-R. Leclerc. Leclerc. It's a Berlin boy here. That's why he knows. Okay. So it just says we buried on this day. We buried in this cemetery of this parish the body of an infant, anonyme, of Ambroise Leclerc. Is it a boy or a girl? We don't know. Félicité. Oh, this child was endeuillé. Pendant l'enfantement. This child was given an emergency baptism at the time of his birth. At the time of his birth, he was given an emergency baptism. Would you list it as a boy or a girl?
Boy.
I would list it as a boy. We don't know 100%. But because they don't have a double E on endeuillé, I would list it as a boy. It's not, you're going to see a lot of anonymes. Okay.
Wow, beautiful handwriting.
That is good handwriting. What is different about this record? It's in French, of course, and I don't expect you, but if you were to just look at this very quickly, I see, and this is the way it was written. He baptized Jean-Baptiste and Joseph. Does anything stand out in this record? Jean-Baptiste and Joseph. Né. N-E-S. What do you think? Twins. They're twins. Yeah, I know it, exactly. And the thing is, in the parish registers, they weren't uniform. Sometimes they'd put it all in one entry. Sometimes they'd put them in two separate entries. So you've got to look. You've got to look carefully. So when I looked at this, I said baptisé, and they should have had an S here, but Jean-Baptiste and Joseph, né with an S. La veille, enfant with an S, and the word jumeau. Jumeau, twins. Very important. Otherwise, you just put down one person. So that is one example of twins.
It says, when it says baptism 67 and 68, that's another hint.
Well put. Good catch.
Yeah, okay.
Give him a piece of candy. Good catch.
They also have two sets of godparents.
Yes, and they have two sets of godparents. Another good one. You get a piece of candy too. Absolutely. So that was a good catch. So the godparents of Jean-Baptiste were Jean-Baptiste Lambert and Charlotte Quentin, and the other ones was the Joseph was Pierre Lambert and Suzanne Quentin. Now, this was indexed. When I'm looking for this person, it's tough reading. It was indexed Oscar. Anyone have a clue? I. Did somebody say I? Did you say?
No, I thought.
The first letter is an I.
Oh, I thought it was a big.
I know it. It's the French word for Isaiah. I-S-A-I-E. I-S-A-I-E. I know. I mean, you. So if you're looking for Isaïe, Samson, Samson, and you type that in, and you know, indexing it, not going to come up because it was Oscar. Oscar in French, Quebec Catholic, you never see an Oscar. Okay, thanks, Gil. Okay, here's another jumeau, not as pretty, not as well written. 2 B's, that's about the best you're going to do. And let's see if we can find the name. C'est paroisse, on baptisé Pierre, P-I-E, R-R-E. Can you get Pierre out of that? Yeah, only if you know it's Pierre. Right? And Jean-Baptiste.
Why do they keep saying those Jean-Baptiste all the time?
That is the most common French given name. Jean-Baptiste. John Baptist. John the Baptist. It's the most common. Next to Joseph. But I mean, for a given name, Jean-Baptiste is the most common. A lot of times they're named after the Godfather. Remember, they had a lot of children. On average, they probably had 9 or 10 children. Same mother. Yeah, superwoman. That's why they died at 60 and earlier. So, over here we have twins. It would be hard, though, when you're looking at this record, but the hint is 2 B's, and you've got to know a little French, and they were nés, as supposed to be N-E-S. What do you think? Yeah. If now that I pointed out, they were nés aujourd'hui. They were born today. So that's another example of twins in a record. But again, it's the marriage of François mariage de Franc. Yeah, and Magdalene, I don't know. Yeah, I have it somewhere, but I can't make it out right now. What do we have here? Again, you got to look at the records closely. Here's an example of a baptism of this Ferdinand Gosselin. Again, see the double S? That looks like a P. And the next record is his twin, an anonyme of Barnabé Gosselin. Here's the father, see? Barnabé Gosselin. Ferdinand. Oh, forgive me. P, period, Ferdinand Gosselin. In the body of the record, baptisé Pierre Ferdinand. When was he born? Né ce jour. Born this day. Exactly. Né ce jour. His parents, Barnabé Gosselin and Hermine Sylvain. Sylvain. So you come down to this next one, there's a burial. On the 2nd of July, this baby, parents, does it go down any further, Gil? Or is that it? That's it. Take my word for it. That's the twin. But over here, see, he was endeuillé à la maison. That's right. He was given an emergency baptism at the house. And let's see, does it say when he died? Anonyme, âgé de 2 jours. He's 2 days old. 2nd of July minus 2 days, 30th of June. So now you know when he was born. Same time as his twin brother. Okay?
Could someone other than a priest do an emergency?
Yes. Yes. A lot of times it was who's the woman?
Midwife?
The midwife.
The midwife could do it.
Yes.
Okay.
They had the authority. And then if the child lived, then they would do the baptism at the church at another time.
That
Oops.
one,
Back?
this child called Pierre Ferdinand.
Yes.
His godfather was a Ferdinand Letourneau.
Ah, there you go. Ferdinand Letourneau. So you were talking about their names. Same name as the godparent. Good catch.
I've never seen it in my grandfather's.
An even sign. That was 1844, so that was good. He was an educated man.
And the woman signed too.
And which is much more rare. Very rare to see a woman sign in the early records. In the early records. Yes. Fontaine. Very good. See, you can read French. Go ahead, Gil. This is a rough record, and we're just going to go over it. I found these records. They're twins. Separate entries. But you can see the word here, gemelle. Gemelle. Gemelle is a twin. It's a female. And let's see if we can find their names. Baptisée Marie Thérèse, Ther. Thérèse Véronique. And the other one is, let's see, baptisée Marie Angélique, née d'aujourd'hui, born today. You got to see the parents are the same. Ignace Cote. Look how they spell Cote. Cotte. Two T's. And Véronique Hébert, Ebert, Hébert. Is the same one up here? Ignace Cote, Véronique Hébert. Okay, so twins, says gemelle, two separate entries as compared to put them all in one record. But it's a rough record. Okay, this one here, these always get to my heart because this is the only evidence that this person was ever in existence. Okay? This here is a birth, it's a baptism, it's a burial, and a death record, all in one record. You can't really tell by what this is here, but we know it's Julienne Demers. So it says that on the 4th of June, the 4 de juin, 1794, 1794. We, the undersigned priests, have buried, inhumé, a fille, F-I-L-L-E. Generally, in the burial records, they will tell you the sex, will tell you the gender. In the burial record. I don't know why in the burial record and not in the baptism record, but in the burial record, you're told the gender. So, which is good. So she was buried. She was baptized without condition the 1st of this month. Okay? So see, they buried her on the 4th of June. They baptized her on the 1st of the month. The daughter of Joseph de Mers and Geneviève She died yesterday. Âgée of the age of de trois. What's trois? 3 days. She was buried on the 4th of June. She was baptized on the 1st of the month. She died yesterday, and she was 3 days old. So when was she born? 4th of June. She was 3 days old on the 4th of June. On the 1st, the same day of as the baptism. She was baptized without condition on le premier de ce mois, of this month. So there's a lot in this record. It's the whole life story of this little girl who lived 3 days. So if this is your ancestor and you find this record, it's wonderful. Because now you've caught her and you've recorded her and she is someone. Okay. Signatures are precious. This record goes back to 1700. This is my great-grandfather, 9 times removed. Here's his name, Jean Cote. He was the first person born in this country from my great-grandfather, 10 times removed, who came from France. And it's his wife. They were more educated back in the early late 1600s, early 1700s. As they started working on the farms, they just didn't go to school. So I mean, to find my great grandmother's name and my great grandfather's name 9 times removed, and their signatures, wow. Go ahead, Gil. So here's a 1901 census record. Yeah, here's a 1901 Canada Census, an ancestor, children. And I made this mistake. Georges. And they have him listed here as a petit-fils. Go to the next slide. This is the extraction. Petit-fils. Does anyone know what a petit-fils is? Literally means a young child, but it means a grandson. It's a grandson. Well, that makes a difference, because now you say, well, who's the father? And then, so when you see a petit-fils or in petite fille, the grandchildren, grandson, granddaughter. And wait a minute, one more thing. Birthplace. Where's this one? Yeah, États-Unis. Okay. États-Unis. United States. That's how it would be in French. That's how they would write it. Go ahead. This one here is the only record I have ever found of a stillborn child. And usually if you find a child and it says anonyme or buried on that day, you assume they took a breath, because it doesn't say they didn't. If they gave him an emergency baptism, I just assume they were breathing. But this one here is the first time I found one where it says anonyme décédé 2 jours avant naissance. died 2 days before the birth. Now, this was in 1912. So they probably were able to stethoscope, say this baby's dead.
Oh, it's not an old.
Yeah, and the enfant, and they buried the child. They buried in the cimetière des enfants morts sans baptême. They buried this child in a cemetery set apart for those without baptism, instead of with the family. So I thought that was an interesting record. Go ahead, Gil. Now, everyone's familiar with Saint-Gelais. Saint-Gelais. That's the way we spell it. But look at the way some of the different spellings that I found. Singelais. Yeah, all one word. So, names change, right? And down here, Singelet. You see the way they make the T's? This is the old T. Boom, boom. Saint-Gelais. Just a different name. Okay. This is a little anonyme. Nadeau. You got to decipher the vital data. On the 14th of June, 1828, in 1828, on the 14th of June, he was buried. And he was décédé le 12. He died on the 12th. And he was born décédé aussitôt. Let's see. The 12 sounds. And he died immediately after his birth. And he was given an emergency endeuillé à la maison. So this little boy died on the 12th of the same month, and he died immediately after his birth and given an emergency baptism. Go ahead. I've got 5 more minutes. Is that too much? Okay. Researching for children. I found this family in Family Search. Here's the family, husband and wife, children, 1843, 1844, 1862. So I'm thinking, there's got to be some more children, right? How am I going to find these children? So this is what I did. I said, when was this guy born? I know there's an 1861 Canada Census. So, next slide. I said, he was born in 1862 in this parish. So I went to the 1861 census. Go ahead. And I looked. And I looked down. I said, whoa, here's one in the same parish. And there they were. Wow. Now, one of the things, remember as you're researching, you got 4 years between children. What do you think? Could be another child in there that died. Yeah. And over here, 5 years. Probably another child. Okay, over here, here's a child that was born on the 9th of February, Marie Aurélie Bernier, and her father is Jean Bernier. This is on the 9th. Next slide. And then I find that a child died on the 2nd of December of the same year, and now I see that the father, Jean Bernier, is dead. Feu, F-E-U, is dead. This is the last slide. Marie Alma Césarie Roberge. This little girl had an emergency baptism. She was given a baptism on the 19th, but it says in the record that she was endoyée par nous, prêtre Soussigné. So somehow she was in a desperate, and somebody ran and got the priest came over and baptized this little girl. And quelques instants après sa naissance, just a short time after her birth, we gave her this emergency baptism. Just wonderful records. Okay, in closing, Jane, and can you give people my email address? If you have any questions, translation, because you saw some of those records, you got to be an Egyptologist to be able to figure them out. Okay. I'd be more than happy to do research, okay? Because I want you to find your Quebec Catholic ancestors. They're waiting to be found. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope it's been informative.